then we will hop in. We'll be starting with a TLDR for the people who have no patience for anything. And then we'll be delving into what that TLDR means for you and me. This music is not the music of the game, for anyone who could not figure that out on their own. I have added this myself. One more minute and then we'll get to this. All live streams start chill. That's how duty has defined these things. Okay, let's talk about Dredge. The TLDR of Dredge, my friends, and I think I might need to turn this music down a little bit, otherwise my volume's not going to be balanced. That should do. Yeah. Let's turn the game itself down as well. If I do a bunch of talking, and then I don't, and then I'm not audible, I'm gonna be super duper annoyed. So, TLDR of Dredge. Dredge is a lot like getting the wrong cut of Colby. And what do I mean by that? Well, Colby is inherently delicious Korean barbecue. But oftentimes it is very much just a piece of gristle and bone with just enough meat to keep you interested. And that's this game. This is a game that will leave you gnawing at it to get every single piece of meat off the bone just to justify the money that you've spent on it. So, that's the short answer. But the thing is, I really enjoyed chewing on that Colby. Like, I didn't chew on it for as long as I've chewed on many other games that have cost me a lot less. And honestly, if we're equating deliciousness to story, then this game's not that delicious. But if we're equating deliciousness to everything a game has to offer, then this was a really tasty game. So, talk about sound design. During the day, everything is totally normal and good. You're over here playing Fish Tetris, which I really appreciate. I think it's super cool that they've taken all of this inventory Tetris that people have been playing in games like Tarkov and other such games like Diablo, I guess, before that, and turned it into actual Tetris. Because in pretty much every other game I've played, you're working with regular shapes, rectangles and squares, and nothing else. In this game, you are working with actual Tetris pieces. And that's nice. That adds a degree of flavor that just makes it rewarding when you can literally return your ship to the dock with 100% full cargo, because that means you did a damn good job, right? That's cool. You planned your fish accordingly, because some fish are huge, some fish are small, some fish are worthless. Well, let's be real. Basically every fish at the starting area is worthless in the long run. You're going to get way more money by upgrading your boat as fast as humanly possible, getting as far as you can in the story so you can get the stuff that lets you dredge certain areas that you would not otherwise be able to dredge. I'm looking at this because this is Story Island here. And so, overall, gameplay is very, very, very simple. You fish for money. The fish get stale, and then they get rotten, and then they are worthless. And you fish, well, you trawl up broken ships. And the broken ships are what allow you to upgrade your ship. And the ship does upgrade visually with the upgrades, which is really nice. They're very subtle, and I didn't really notice them until the end because I'm a jackass. But those details are worth commending. Because if it had just been physical upgrades with no visual upgrades, this game would be not as delicious, to be sure. Okay. Let's see if we can make it nighttime, so we can start actually talking about the sound designs. Let's make sure we turn our light off here, so we can get our madness up as fast as humanly possible. So at the end of the day, this is a game about Lovecraftian horror stuff. And I think this game ultimately does not succeed when it comes to Lovecraftian horror. I think it does a great job when it comes to thalassophobia and getting attacked by giant big things underneath you that you can't quite see. But thalassophobia and Lovecraftian horror, though sharing similar vibes, are not the same thing. And let me show you where I think this game succeeded the most at Lovecraftian horror. It's the descriptions on the fish. Staring outwards, unblinking, eyes barred from a larger being, but not the mind to process what it sees. The flavor text on the Cthulhu fish are awesome. I think the first Cthulhu fish I caught in the description of the Cthulhu fish is when I really felt like this game had good flavor and was worth playing. Because it's definitely rewarding to go out there, spend your money on upgrades and stuff like that, and make your boat better. But like you can play a million games that will quote unquote reward you for doing stuff, right? There's a million games out there, and so it's the context that matters, right? And so this is a game with ghost boats and a trophy for honking at ghost boats. And that, I think, is kind of where the Lovecraftian horror falls apart, right? This thing here is zero threat to me ever. And it spooks you once, Because you're like, oh, spooky ghost boat. I've never seen any boats during the day. It's got to be a ghost boat. And then you realize that you get a trophy for honking at it, and then you blast at it, and it goes away. And so, ultimately, I think that's why it fails at Lovecraft. Because Lovecraft is a thing that delves into unfathomable dread and is ultimately not something that can be conquered. Did I just get it? See this again? Like, I think I just got hit by like a ghost fish, but not enough setup for me to see it. Yeah, and there's some definite cool moments where like ghost sharks come at you and they fuck up your boat. And because they fuck up your boat, that means that they are real, even if like during the day they are not, or when you aren't mad they are not. And so like having these existential madness based threats is an attempt at Lovecraftian horror, but the thing is, the more lumens you get, and the more you realize that sleep resets all madness, and madness is the source of all threats, and there's pretty much always somewhere to sleep, then the existential dread that I think it needs to be present until the end of a Lovecraftian horror starts to slip away. And they do their best to bring it back at the end with having essentially certain endings and doom be unavoidable, but it's not enough. It's still extremely basic, and we can get into the details of the spoilers and stuff like that, but let's give it a minute to just like settle. We've talked about the general overarching review. Now we can start talking about spoilerific stuff. I mean, in many ways this is going to be a review that's spoilerific anyway, because many of my issues with the game come from how quickly the veil of horror is lifted. Speaking of, we've come to this place to talk about something else. So, in this area, there's a big old fish. And running from that fish seems kind of scary at first, right? But when you realize that repairing your ship is cheap because there's an infinite amount of fish and an infinite amount of money to be made, again, it all starts to fall apart. So, what would have fixed the issue with the everlasting horror? See, that's the problem, right? It's in having a game where you upgrade everything you own, it's kind of diametrically opposed to the core theme of Lovecraftian horror being essentially unconquerable. And so here's a game where you essentially conquer the Lovecraft. And I just don't think it's true to Lovecraft in many ways. Right? When I can just sleep it off. When I can just click a button because I have shitloads of money. Like, there's no horror here. And you can say, oh, but you're in the end game. It's like, no, I conquered all of the horror aspects the moment I realized docks are plentiful. And that you can sleep at every single dock, and that dock gets rid of Lovecraft. So this is a game where sleep quickly overcomes horror, and that's, pardon me for being on the nose, but that's kind of a bit of a sleepy concept. So let's talk about the end of the game. The game does spoilers for anyone who just is still gonna play it, because overall, my advice right now is to wait until this game is a good juicy cut of Colby. Wait for the content to be there, wait for the justification of the price to be there, and wait for there to be maybe a little bit more to sink your teeth into, just because I would hope that it prevents the veil from getting peeled back a little bit faster. Because I have trouble feeling like Lovecraft Fish is like enough to have a Lovecraft story. So, let's talk about exactly why I feel that way. At the end of the game, no, way sooner than that. The moment you get this feature here, Manifest, the moment you get this ability is when you get probably your biggest hint that you are directly connected to everything going on. And there's like subtle hints before that, but when you get this spell, it says it allows you to teleport back to where it all began. And so naturally, you're thinking it's going to teleport you to this dock here, because this is where you started the game as a player. And so it's great writing, because it subverts expectations, because you expect to be here, and you find out that you actually teleport to over there. And so anyone who has the ability to ask why is going to start peeling back the layers of the mystery of this game. And like, I can't say that the reveals are great, because I figured them out pretty quickly. And so one of the major reveals is that the man who owns the house here, the man you've been talking to, the man who's been sending you on all of these quests to get all of these cursed Cthulhu items, which again, I think kind of goes against cosmic horror, like go get these physical trinkets, doesn't really say cosmic horror to me, even if you flavor text them decently well. Anyway, so you fucking find out that this guy is you. You're just like, literally, you fucking cast some Lovecraft magic on yourself to split your psyche in half because you lost your wife. And you send yourself on a quest to get your wife back. And like anyone who knows fucking anything about Lovecraftian horror knows that if you're gonna get your wife back, it's gonna be at like the expense of humanity. And wouldn't you know it, if you try to get your wife back, like, this village is on fire in the end scenes, and Cthulhu's just, like, looming over it. Like, cool? So what is the good ending, then? You literally throw a cursed book back into the ocean. The ocean gets super duper pissed. But it seems like the fucking Cthulhu horror's gonna abate quite a bit. Let's see if this actually can attack me. Oh, it's a fish! Hey, that's kinda cool. I actually quite like that. Can I follow it? Oh, I can't follow it. Well, so I guess the ghosts can attack you. But again, it's like, as long as you repair before you hit 6X's, you're fine. And the game overs aren't really that bad in this game. So, let's talk a little bit more about the quote-unquote good ending. You throw the book back, the sea gets pissed, but it seems to be a little less Cthulhu-y, and then you get eaten by a giant fish. But the town's okay. So, like, some people might say, like, that's Lovecraft, you know? That's the inescapable cosmic horror of it all. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But I would argue that it's really just a basic bitch story about a wife you've never fucking met and have no context for. She's just your wife. You're supposed to care because you care about your wife, right? No, she's literally just another faceless wife lady. I don't know. I argue that overall the story is really simple and just needs a lot more meat to be worth a damn. It's really not enough to say, oh no, you sacrificed your whole world for your wife. Aren't you the worst? Shouldn't you have not tried to get your wife back? And I argue, yes, you should not have tried to get your wife back, specifically because at no point in this game did I feel like the wife was a character of any kind. And like, yeah, she writes you notes and shit. Let's go into these notes. This is a bunch of them. But like, they're cheap. They're cheap as anything else. I can't even remember what he said. I just accepted the proposal. It's like the notes where it seems like she might not be dead still are the coolest ones, I guess. But the ones where she's like definitely dead do not do enough to make her a character other than just like, yay, I love this man. He's such a fisherman. He's so fish-tastic. He takes me out on boats. He renamed the boat after me. It's like, I don't care. I don't care about one courtship to essentially what are two characters we'll never know. Because I'm the boatman. Like, they do not give me enough choices in this game to make me anything other than the boatman. I'm the boatman. You know this boatman as well as you know me, as well as you know any other boatman. They do not give you enough. Oh, dude's trying to get his fucking wife back or some shit. Like, who knows why you're gathering these items? It really seems like it's for your wife pretty much the whole time, right? Ugh. It's basic. It's basic, but the gameplay loop is pretty fun. Emphasis on pretty fun. So yeah, I don't know. Is today's $25, yesterday's $15? Because if your answer to that is yes, then I guess fine. But I don't know. Wizards of Legend just did such a good job setting what a game for $15 can be worth. And then I play games like this where I breeze through them in an enjoyable day, but it's still a day. And so I try to compare these things to like movies. I still got more than 2 movies worth out of it. But the thing about movies is like movies make me feel something. This game didn't make me feel anything. Other than like some thalassophobia at certain moments that were very quickly dispelled by sleep and better lights. You hit a point where literally the madness does not get red eye if you leave your lights on. It just won't happen. And before that you have sleep. I don't know. I think sleep shouldn't... I don't know what would fix this game. Because my main core overarching complaint is that there is either not enough of it or that they don't really understand existential, unending dread the way that their source material does. Like, let's talk about the manga where all of a sudden spirals just start infecting everything. And like the entire world is essentially destroyed by a shape. You don't get an answer there. You don't find out that some dude caused all that shit because his wife was dead and you wanted her back. No, like, that spiral just fucks up the entire planet because it is a shape that got swept through space and we were unfortunate enough to touch it. Do you understand the difference here? Like, the just the depth of dread between those two topics? One of them, you just make peace with the fact that your fucking wife is dead and you move on like every other human being who has dealt with tragedy in their lives. The alternative to that should not be Cthulhu Monster. The alternative is a story where, like, his struggle is internal and unsolvable and manifested in the horrors he sees. Like, why does it have to be his wife? Why can't he just be deeply, profoundly mentally ill? Like, in a way that only certain people can empathize with. Maybe I need to go write some Lovecraftian horror, you know? Put up or shut up, right? Totally fair comment. I would love to debate in the comments here, like, what this game means to Lovecraft, because I just think it means very little. I think all of the rotten fish quotes are the best, by far. They're the meatiest, tastiest aspect of this game. Because this game does a great job not telling you very much about the story until basically the very end. And the thing is, you have to deliver at that point. You have to deliver at that point. You have to deliver either something meaningful or something that is deeply cosmic horror related. And I don't think getting eaten by a big fish or your dead wife walking with Cthulhu is really either of those things. At least not in a world where there's comics about shapes that touch your planet and there's fucking nothing you can do about it. Everything is just forever different and you're probably just all going to be dead when it's done. Because the shape is a metaphor for all of the bullshit beyond your control that shapes the world, right? Nuclear plans, blah, 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 blah. What is this man's dead wife a metaphor for if they don't lean into his mental illness in some real way? It's not about a struggle to overcome mental illness. It's not about a struggle to overcome grief. And it certainly ain't a cosmic horror. So what it is at the end of the day, cosmic horror light for $25. And cosmic horror light actually tastes good. For all of my bitching, cosmic horror light actually tastes good. But only for so long. Because at a certain point, you're just chewing on bone and gristle. And that's my conclusion here. Thanks for listening.